Today we're going to learn how to make a graphical user interface in MATLAB without using guide. We're going to make a very simple GUI today that has the ability to dynamically create and destroy other UI objects such as buttons while you're running. Let's take a look at this. Here's the GUI that we're going to build today. You can see that if I click this button, it's going to add another button and disable the original. Then when we hit remove, it'll get rid of that button for us and re-enable the original add button. We made that GUI with the code that you see here. What we're going to see today is I'm going to recreate this GUI with this code line by line so you understand the thought process that went into creating a GUI like this. Let's begin. Well, I know that I want to create a GUI, and so I'm going to have to start with some kind of a function file. So I would just say function, and I've already got this file saved, so I'm just going to give it the same name as the file itself. That's good programming practice. Simple GUI, and I misspelled that, function simple GUI. Now I know that I'm going to need a figure for this. In guide would create the figure for you, but here we have to do this all by ourselves. I like to keep all the handles to these different widgets available, so I'm going to save the handle for this figure in a structure h.fig. That way I can keep all of my handles together. And I happen to know the size and position of this GUI that I want initially to be like this. If I didn't know, what I could do is just create a figure and move it and position it however I wanted, make it the right size, and then get the position to find out what that is. So you don't need to do a lot of trial and error here. We've got something that's worth running at this point. I like to do a lot of testing as I go. So I'm going to hit F5 to save and run. And notice there is my figure window down at the bottom. It has everything that I'm looking for. Let me close that. Now that I have my figure, I'm going to need to add a button. I'm going to just paste that from what I've already done and explain here. What I'm going to do is add a UI control. This UI control could have many different styles. It could be a push button, it could be a radio button. In this case, I just want a push button. I know its position. The position is going to be relative to the figure that you're putting it into. So I'm going to go 10 pixels in each direction, then have it be 100 wide and 40 pixels tall. Finally, I get to add a string, and I'm going to add the string add button here. Next, what I'm going to do is run this, F5, and there's my button. But when I click it, nothing happens. So what I need to do is add a callback. A callback is a function that gets called when you click the button or what have you. So what I can do here is say set hbutton1, and I want to set the callback, and then I give a cell array. In that cell array, the first thing I'm going to do is list the function that I want to call, add button. We still need to write that one. And then I'm going to list the inputs that I'm going to send over there. And I'm sending over h, which is our handle structure, because we'll need it on the inside there. Notice when I do this that I am not setting the callback in the creation of hbutton1, and the reason I'm not putting it up there with string style and position is that h hasn't been created with the field button1 at that point, and so when you pass h over there, it's not going to be fully formed. So I let myself create hbutton1 first, and then I add the property afterwards. It's just to make sure that the timing is correct in doing this. So if I'm going to have this callback of add button, I certainly need to define that. Now I could define it in another function file, or I can add it as a sub-function of this function, and that's the method I'm going to choose. Okay, I've pasted this in here, and so that we can see better, I'm going to fold this code up, and we're going to focus in here. Let's take a look at this. And what do we see? Well, notice that I am giving two extra unexpected inputs to this function. And the reason for that is when you're calling a callback, MATLAB is automatically going to add HObject, which is the handle of the object that was clicked, pushed, prodded, or what have you, to create that callback. And then we have something called event data, which is there for future expansion. It is not currently used. And then finally I have H, which is just whatever I expected to hand in here. Okay, now that I have this, what I'm going to do is inside here I'm going to create a button, and on that button I'm going to set the style, the position, and the string. It's copied and pasted from right up above. And now I'm going to then set a callback on this button, this new button, button 2, that is going to call remove button in much the same way as before. And then finally, I'm going to turn enable off on the original button so I can't keep clicking it and creating more and more buttons right on top of one another. So if we compare these two, you can see that they're almost identical. All I've done is change this position a little bit and the string and the callback. Great. So that is how I set the add button callback, and that is something that we can test right now. So I'm going to hit F5 to save and run. I hit the add button, and now the remove button is there. And if I click the remove button, of course, it is complaining about there is no remove button callback because I haven't defined it yet. Let's solve that little problem. So I paste that in here, and again I've got all these extra inputs that MATLAB is going to put in there for me. And what do I do for the remove button? Well, so what do I actually do inside of remove button? Well, the first thing I do is I'm going to delete button 2. I'm just going to delete the handle, and that will get rid of the button. And then I want to clean up my H structure that has the handles to all of the different widgets, the figure and the two buttons. And so I'm going to remove that field from the handle structure. Finally, if I've removed the button, now it's safe to enable on button 1. Okay, let's save and run that. And when I click here, add button, remove button. And it works perfectly. So I think you can see how you can make more dynamic GUIs and just simpler, easier to understand code when you do these things without guide. There's a lot of reasons to use guide. It does make it simpler to do the creation and layout and so on, but you have a lot more control over your GUI when you do it this way. And as you can see, you get much more compact code. Thank you.